Good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are. Hello, and welcome to the June Prestige Global Meeting Sources Education Webinar Series. My name is Sasha Andreev, and I'm going to be your host today as we explore today's topic, the AI Playbook for Event Professionals, Tools, Tactics, and Transformation, a very popular subject matter that we're going to get to in just a second. Now, if this is your first time here, we're so thrilled to have you. And if you have joined us for a previous webinar, welcome back. We are glad you are here. Now, in this webinar series, we've been exploring a wide range of topics from personal well-being to elevating your LinkedIn game to revenue management and AV budgets. Now, it's all part of our mission here at Prestige to empower you, our clients, with the knowledge and tools to thrive. Now, a little bit about us, if you're not familiar with Prestige. Prestige provides full-service meetings and event support for event planners, and we're actually quite versatile. See, we make our clients' lives easier with site selection, event logistics, housing and flight management, creative marketing, and personalized on-site support. We collaborate with our global network of hospitality partners, all for your success. And since part of that success is to stay informed and inspired, we've been reaching out to our industry friends to share their expertise on the various aspects that affect your professional and, yeah, sometimes even your personal lives. So, without further ado, why don't we meet one of those friends right now? I would like to introduce to you today's presenter, CEO of Vario, Tim Altbaum. Tim, welcome to our webinar, or rather, welcome back.
Thank you, Sasha. I am thrilled and honored to be here.
Now, before we start your presentation, I just want to tell everybody a little bit about you. Tim is a recognized expert in AI and event technology with over 25 years of leadership in high-impact event production. And as CEO of Vario, he's built a world-class production management firm delivering hundreds of events annually across the US and internationally. Tim is known for pushing creative and technical boundaries, and he challenges teams and audiences to design innovative, immersive experiences. His expertise spans, stay with me, AI, AV design, experiential services, holograms, and AR, VR. He holds a master's in network security, a bachelor's in neuroscience from UC San Diego, and his credentials include CSEP, CMP, HMCC, and CMM. He's got the entire alphabet covered. Tim, did I miss anything about you?
I sure hope not, because I think we've already lost half our audience.
I don't know. They keep on growing, and we're welcome all here because this is going to be a really popular subject. Now, Tim, you were actually with us at one of our first webinars last year, and back then you were talking about AV production. How has AI become a major focus and really become one of the things you specialize in?
Well, I appreciate that question. So being in the audiovisual space, we get to include technology in everything that we do. A lot of folks, when they are hiring an AV company, they're in fact looking for an event technology firm to help bring some of these cutting edge, immersive, trending tech to their program so that they can be a little bit different than, say, their competitors or their last event. So we, as a production business, Vario, we're able to incorporate cutting edge AI tools, not only to enhance what we do from a production standpoint, but ways that we can actually help our customers and our clients enhance their planning. So I'll talk a little bit about that. But again, with my background in audiovisual and tech, that allowed me to kind of transition into this AI space and have been speaking about it for the last few years now.
Right. Well, AI can be scary and intimidating no matter what business you're in. So I'm personally very excited to hear about how event planners can embrace AI easily and effectively.
Me too.
Yeah. Well, before you take it away, I just want to give a note to all our viewers. Tim is going to be posing some questions to the audience. So the chat function is open for all. Keep your fingers warm and ready to respond. And if you do happen to have a question that comes up for Tim during his presentation, I encourage you to use the Q&A function that's below to log that question for us. And we're going to address as many of them as we can after Tim's presentation. And as always, every one of our webinars is recorded and will be made available for viewing on the Prestige Global Meeting Sources YouTube channel, so you can always reference that information later or share it with somebody who wasn't able to make it today. So Tim, I look forward to seeing and hearing what you have to share with us. Take it away.
Well, thank you, Sasha. I appreciate that. As Sasha mentioned at the top, AI can be a little scary. It can be something that folks are skeptical about. And I hope that in this next few minutes we have together, I can show you some really easy ways that you can incorporate AI tools into your daily lives. And in fact, I actually see a couple of folks on here who are using their AI note takers, which I'll talk about that as well. So as I get started, I'm about to share my slide deck. In the chat, please, if you would, I'd like to see who is currently using AI tools and how you are applying those to your business. I know there's a lot of fun ones out there that we can use to put different faces on our bodies and different tools like that, but that are for more personal. But I'd love if you wouldn't mind sharing some of the tools that you personally use in the chat, as well as how you're able to incorporate those into your business. All right, so with that, let me go ahead and share my screen so we can get going. All right. Now, most of you know who this gentleman is. I want to share this thought that he had actually written in April, or said back in April. He says this: I would guess that sometime in the next 12 to 18 months, we'll reach the point where most of the code that's going towards Meta's efforts is written by AI. And he doesn't mean autocomplete. We're talking, you give it a goal, it runs the tests, improves, finds issues, and writes higher quality code than the average very good person on the team already. We all know that Meta has its own version of AI that it's been building and incorporating into their systems. And for Mark Zuckerberg, who, is a pretty smart guy, you could see that he has a feeling that it's going to take over some of the engineering roles, some of the coding roles that even some of his very smart engineers are already doing. So a very interesting comment and something to keep this in mind and keep it in perspective. What I hope to share with you today is why it matters specifically for events, right? So the meetings and events industry, we are always at the forefront of the newest technology, and AI is there, right? Many years ago, it was social media, then it was event apps and virtual platforms. The last 2 years, it's really been focused on AI. So you as a planner or a supplier in this very vast meetings and events space need to understand that we generally are the ones that bring new technology to the forefront. It's also no longer optional, just like social media became no longer optional. And for some of you, hybrid events became no longer optional. You really are going to secure a competitive advantage if you're using these AI tools. So be sure that you are. And after this, if you aren't currently after this presentation, perhaps you will be. And more importantly, why? Saving time, reducing costs, and enhancing experience, not just you or your team's experience, but also the attendees. That's really what AI is supposed to be able to do. Now, with all of that said, you have this little conundrum that everyone is worried that it will replace event professionals. Now, I just showed you Mark Zuckerberg said that he thinks that it could replace some of the coding and some of the things his engineers have been doing. But I believe in our space, it's not going to be able to recreate that relationship building, some of the strategic planning that many planners on this call have spent years and years developing and really becoming an expert at. And that creative aspect, certainly something we'll talk about how AI has a leg up, but we as humans still can be pretty impactful in coming up with these custom programs we're producing. So the reality is that AI is going to enhance, and it currently does enhance, our decision-making capabilities. It automates our repetitive tasks, and it optimizes some of the logistics that we don't need to be dealing with day in and day out. So that's really what I think the crux of AI will be doing for us. So let's talk about the 3 pillars for events specifically. So I talked a little bit about efficiency, so automation of tasks, both logistical and administrative. The engagement aspect, how do we get folks more engaged? You hear these terms like return on emotion and so many of these other terminologies that have just come out in the last 6 months to 2 years about how important it is that the attendees are getting an experience that is entirely unique and different. Not only does it make your event memorable, but it makes your relationships with these people more sticky and with your company specifically, as well as insights. So being able to provide really good data analysis and metrics, looking backwards as well as forwards. That's some of the main ways that you'll be using them in events. So I do break it down by planner and supplier. And if you're going to take a screenshot of anything that we share here today, or if you would rather wait and to get this slide deck, get it from your Prestige rep. These are some of the tools that I'm going to be talking about. Now, of course, we have a short time period. I'm not going to go through all of them, but these are some of the tools that I use personally and that how I feel are specifically enhancing the meetings and events space. I like to break them down into much more easy to understand sections like researching tools, image tools, tools to help with automation, to be part of your meetings, to do audio work, presentations, and facial analysis. So I'll go through a couple of those. So this slide here for planners, let's talk about how you as a planner, if this is your role, how you could be using AI. The streamlining logistics, very important. Being able to put together where you may have a team of 5 people, or post-COVID, many of you are 5 people turned into a 1, really a team of 1 that used to be 5. Understanding how AI can help to streamline some of those everyday tasks and help you to coordinate multiple departments where you used to have multiple people to help with that, and now you no longer do. Also, generating RFPs, creating RFPs from scratch and figuring out what information should be in there, looking at past RFPs and enhancing those. We have planners that are using that all the time that really are looking at, say, ChatGPT, can you review our last 3 years of RFP templates that we've been sending out to our hotels, to our production companies, and really identify ways that we can enhance and make this a little bit different, make this a little bit more palatable or understandable. Agenda creation and scheduling, your scheduling automation. So a lot of folks are using AI to help build an agenda. So as you're, and I have examples of this, but as you're putting together a 2, 3, 4-day meeting or event, it's something that is really tough. Like how many sessions do we have? How many speakers should be looking at? How many different tracks should we be creating? And once that's established, how and when should I be slotting in different presenters? AI can do all of those things for you. It can even go out and, based on what it thinks are going to be the most popular sessions, suggest where and when you should be putting specific sessions. So really impactful and powerful stuff. Curate content as well as find you the right speaker. Talk a little bit about that as well, but using AI tools to help with some of those. And then nowadays, almost every event has some kind of event app that you're using. EventMobi, you've got Hoova, Cvents app. There's so many different apps that we're using, and a lot of them are incorporating AI into them. And not simply matchmaking where you answer 10 questions and based upon those 10 questions, it lines you up with 10 people or somebody that also answered the questions the same way. We're talking really actual smart AI that is looking deeper than just on the surface of those 10 questions. Okay, let's go through just a really quick example. I want to ask one very important question though. Has anybody not used ChatGPT or an equivalent? Type in there, be honest. If you've never used one, throw it in there because you're now a rarity and there's nothing wrong with that. But almost, so when I started talking about AI 2 years ago and I asked who started using AI tools, a few people would raise their hand, 5%, and they all said it was ChatGPT. Nowadays, when I ask the question, 99% of the room has used ChatGPT before, but they don't necessarily know all of the other tools that exist and that are out there. So I'm hoping to get, open up your minds a little bit and expand your horizon. So this is a very simple way of using a tool like Microsoft's Copilot, Gemini through Google, or ChatGPT. Build a 2-day incentive travel plan for 150 executives at the Ritz-Carlton. We need to have some incorporation of local tourist attractions and cuisine. We also need to have an awards program on the second day. It'll be golf themed. And I would really like to see your idea of what that could look like with guests seated in rounds, a band, some lighting, and a green and yellow linen. That's really how you could just very high level start your interaction with a ChatGPT type of tool. You can see that this is actually Copilot. Now, what Copilot did is it looked around and it found, here are some ideas of what you could do as you are planning this event. We'll start with a welcome reception. There'll be lunch, some nature tours, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Day 2, golf clinics, spa treatments, cooking classes, and these are a little bit more generic. However, you can see that it actually mentions here under free time, guests can explore the historic Fernandina Beach District or relax by the pool. Something that I always tell folks like you is you can trust AI, but you really need to verify. When you're working with AI, you never know if it's making it up or if it's being completely honest with you. Now, there's paid versions that will give you a little bit better data, but use your resources, use your supplier network, use Prestige to make sure that the information it's giving you actually exists. I've done this tool before and I've sent this over to DMCs, and DMCs are like, that's a great start, but unfortunately that restaurant is actually no longer open, or it really isn't a 5-minute walk between here and there. So just trust but verify. And then I also asked it to generate an image of what that golf themed green and yellow gala would look like. So imagine being able to, just with a couple written prompts, share with your executives, share with your stakeholders, here's what I think this gala could look like based upon this plan that we have. This, and you can tell right here, I specifically said 8 people per table, and it put 10 per table. So, I got a little bit wrong, but they're in rounds, and it's green and it's yellow, and there's a stage and a band and lighting. So it got most of it right. But you could definitely see that DMCs can start to use this to put renders together for you without having to necessarily engage a full-time renderer at a high cost. So there's lots of ways that you can use text to generate image, generate video, to help you get a little bit further along before you go out to RFP to any of your professionals. Now, those are just a few examples of what planners can do and how planners can be using this. There's a lot of overlap in what suppliers can do as well. But here's specifically to suppliers. So enhancing your sales and service cycle, I have a slide next that I'll show you what that is and a really great example of that. But when you get an RFP, you can have AI analyze that RFP, call out some of the specifics, summarize what you think the customer or the planner is looking for you to provide to them, and be able to create really top-notch proposals, including what I just showed you with that AI generated image. Using your CRM, so most CRMs these days, Salesforce, HubSpot, Salesforce Agentforce is actually one that I might have time to talk about. If not, just know if you're a Salesforce customer, that's going to be a game changer. But being able to use AI tools within your CRM to not only be more and stay in more touch with your customer, but also to have custom generated emails specific to your history with that customer that is different than any other email you're sending out, for example, through an emailed newsletter. Lead qualification, so really the AI chatbots, you see that so many times now on websites where there's an AI chatbot that is helping you. And if you really need to talk to a person, it will allow you to talk to a person. But 95% of the questions you have, these AI chatbots will be able to answer for you. Kind of crazy. Predictive analysis for inventory and staffing. You'll see venues that are starting to use AI to predict when to turn HVAC systems on, security doors that can be locked and unlocked, concessions that can be opened up based upon when certain things are letting out based on crowd sizes. I think I have a slide on that as well. So those are a few ways. Of course, with sustainability is such an important part of our industry, understanding that you can reduce waste and you can reduce electricity use and all these other elements using AI and predictive AI. That's not just saying, we know this session ends at 5 p.m., turn the AC off at 5:15. Can actually physically and understand how many people are in the room and whether there's a demand for AC or not just a turn it on, turn it off type of solution. And then lastly, I have on here that personalized client outreach. So I mentioned this a little bit earlier. Imagine sending out a bulk email to 500 customers, but instead of it just saying, hi, customer, with a few paragraphs of why you're reaching out, it actually throws some personal information into that email on automatically, so that even though you're sending the same bulk message to everyone, it's taking curated bits of knowledge from past conversations and things in your CRM, like what their dog's name is and when their daughter's birthday is, and throwing some of those unique aspects into that email so that it doesn't seem like such a canned email response. Here's an example of, and this is Agentforce, will be similar, Salesforce Agentforce, but this is a company called Calibri AI. This is just an example of a salesperson on a call with a customer, and the customer specifically says, hey, we're comparing your product to SkyCall. How is yours different? Like, why would we go with you? What's the value proposition of going with you? And in real time, AI is listening to your customer's potential objections or potential questions and serving you as the salesperson or supplier with real-time data to refute or to answer their direct question. So immediately as Robert Fox asks that question, the AI popped up a button that said, click here if you want to learn 4 reasons why we're different than Skycall. So it did all the research in less than a second, and it has 4 objections or 4 unique value props about you versus the competitor that they just mentioned. So really, really important. And this brings up another question. If you would throw this into the chat, does your organization, so whether you're a meeting planner party of one, or you work for a large organization or supplier or planner, does your organization have a formal plan to incorporate AI? I would love to know, because when I ask this question, most people say, no, we don't have a formal plan. In fact, they don't really even ask us whether or not we use AI tools. So it's really important to bring up that question to your team, your executives, whoever are the folks that will manage that aspect, because not only is it important to have a formal plan for AI, but also to have the correct IT infrastructure to make sure that it's not being abused. And I bring this up because I work with a lot of people in the industry from different avenues, so DMCs, suppliers for like hotels, and specifically the DMCs, the question always comes up, should I be able to use a render that AI generates legally, or is there any legal issues with that? And should I put a disclaimer? And I think you're going to start to see legislation eventually that starts to talk about this. But right now it's the wild, wild west. And I suggest that if you are generating something via AI, especially imagery, etc., there's no reason why you shouldn't put a little disclaimer. This image generated by AI to be used as a discussion point. Not necessarily like my renderer spent 4 hours and created this. So if you don't have a formal plan in your organization for using AI, start to bring up those conversations, because eventually, if you're not doing it now, you may incorporate AI in every proposal you ever write, every RFP you ever put together. Most importantly, if you're a planner and you're comparing 3 or 4 cities / 3 or 4 hotels, and you want to make sure that they took your RFP with all of your rooming suggestions that you need, all the concessions that you've asked for, imagine throwing your RFP and the response from the hotel into an AI tool like Copilot or ChatGPT and saying, how closely does this hotel align with the objectives of our program, the concessions we asked for, and the price point we need to match? And within a second or 5, instantly it bullet points everywhere the hotel's proposal is different than what your RFP states. Same thing can happen with your DMC, same thing can happen with your production provider, but really instantly telling you. And again, having a formal way that your organization is handling and using AI will help you to have any, to negate any challenges that could come from that. Okay, so I talked a little bit about what planners can be doing, what suppliers can be doing. And I do have more examples. I just like to do this right at the top, all the just straight information. But marketing, a lot of planners are also marketers. You have to get folks to come to actually attend your meetings, whether it's an internal or it's an external with external clients there. But using these AI copywriting tools to create some of the content, to review the emails that you're sending out, to review your value proposition you're putting on your social channels, you should already be using that. It's built into Google's Gmail if you use Google. It's built into Outlook through Microsoft Copilot. Have it reread your email. I mean, whether it's a personal email to a friend or it's an email to your boss, you're having a bad day, you might sound bad in your email, you're coming off a little straightforward and a little bit too, I don't know what the word is, but long story short is you can have AI rewrite that email for you so you sound a little bit nicer, not in such a bad mood. But that automated newsletter campaign, I talked about that on the supplier side. That's also true for planners and for marketers. The AI video generation, I'll show you this on the next slide. But if you're a marketer, if you're a promoter of a program and you're trying to come up with your 30-second sizzle reel or your 90-second why you should come to our next conference, you can use AI tools to do this. And again, I'll show you on the next slide. And then SEO and using these for ad optimization. You can actually design entire marketing programs using AI. It'll tell you when to post, how to post, what your post should say, what hashtags you need to include. What are all the kids searching for these days out on Instagram? So that's really something marketers are already using to make sure they're identifying the right audiences. So this next slide is a quick video. It's about 30 seconds long. What I did is we had an event coming up. I live here in Dallas and I'm the president of our MPI chapter. And we were doing an educational program, a day-long event. and I put a one paragraph together on what the event is, and then I threw it in a tool called InVideo. And what InVideo did is it put together a little sizzle reel without any interaction from me. And this is what it looked like.
If your event planning feels stagnant, you're missing out on MPI DFW's Education Day 2025. Join us at the Hyatt Regency Frisco on March 20th for a day packed with game-changing insights, stellar networking opportunities, and state-of-the-art sessions. Discover the best practices for in-person events, sustainable practices, and data-driven planning. Earn those CMP credits and take your career to the next level. Don't miss out on the event of the year. Register now and be part of the future of events.
So you can see all of those were watermarked, and with them being watermarked, all you have to do is pay for the official license of the program, which I think is like $8 or $10 a month. And now you no longer have watermarks, and all of that footage is yours. You can very easily swap out different footage with your own personal footage, or have it go out to the web and continue to find additional content. So really powerful. I know that wasn't perfect, but that was literally, it took 5 minutes to generate, and it was a starting point. And it came up with all of those talking points. So for those of you that are not video editors in general, it's a great place to start. Now, real-time support, again, we talked a little bit about this, but these AI-based chatbots, translation services, very important. Wordly, Zoom, all of these different tools have real live, in real time language translation, captioning, et cetera. Those are tools we need to do for all of our ways that we can create more sustainable events, more adaptable events, and be much more open to people of different languages as well as learning styles. And then automated check-in using facial recognition or facial analysis to help you not only walk through and get through security faster, but get your badge faster. All of these things can in fact be used on that check-in side. So you'll see a lot more events using a facial analysis tool to get you through registration a little bit faster, even when you're using the event app as well, being able to use some of these AI as well. So strategies to make the events more efficient. I think I talked a little bit about how you really need to make sure that AI is helping you become more efficient. So, pre-event, before your event happens, we talked about being able to personalize your invitations. So let's say this customer has attended 3 different years, and in all of these different years, you have registered all the sessions that they attended. You now can have AI personalize a marketing email to them based upon the sessions they've attended in the past, to get them excited about attending your event in the future. Pretty powerful. Again, creating timelines and task management all before the event happens. Use AI to help streamline those things. Throw a spreadsheet together with every session name, how long it is, and expected attendance. Throw it into AI and have it build you a 4-day agenda using all of the different breakout spaces. List your breakout rooms and their max attendance size, and it will automatically line up all of your sessions and tell you where you should plot and slot that session. Pretty important. And then budgeting, forecasting, understanding costs, all of that should be done using AI. Flowcast is one example that my CFO uses, but you can throw in a lot of information from the past as well as predictions for the future, and AI will help you to make sure that you are staying on budget and on task. Once we're on site, we talked about live transcription and note taking. So that's where Fathom, I see some folks on here are using Otter. I used Read.ai. I'll have an example of that in a moment. Who on here is currently using an AI tool or an AI bot to join your meetings and be part of the meeting with you? If you are, please put yes, I am, because it's so important that you have another step, another person, if you will, in that meeting with you, automatically taking notes for you, automatically summarizing the bullet points of what you should be doing post-event, so the key takeaways. But an AI companion like Read, Fathom, Otter, even Zoom Companion works as well. I'll show you a screenshot of that in a moment. But again, personalized attendee schedules. Oftentimes we're downloading the event app for a program and it says, would you like me to suggest which sessions that you should attend? And now AI can look back in that history of that person's attendance and suggest what sessions they should be joining in this particular conference based upon all of their past, not just what they've answered recently. And then wayfinding and using it to get through a trade show floor, navigation. I'll show you an example of how AI can be used for that. So this is a screenshot. I know it's kind of small, but this is Read.ai. And this AI tool sits in on meetings. It sits in with me, or it can actually join a meeting without me. So I can be in 2 places or 5 all at one time. And it transcribes the entire meeting. It listens. It categorizes it. If you can see, let's see, I have a little laser pointer tool. It has these little tick marks that shows me when different important things happened within that phone call. And I can instantly click and go to that section to read about it. It'll also put together any key questions that came out of it, takeaways, who was on the call, do you want to sync this to your CRM? All of this is happening in real time, and it is all done for me. And I don't even really have to attend the meeting if I don't want to. So use an AI tool works really, really well. This is that wayfinding. So a couple of years ago, they came out with Bluetooth trackers, and as long as your phone's Bluetooth is on and you walk past one of these trackers, it will know roughly where you are. Well, the next step, incorporating AI, not just Bluetooth for wayfinding and telling you where to go, but now you're talking about popping up ads. Just like whenever you're at home and you're talking to your wife about, gosh, we really need a vacation, we should go to Hawaii. And then all of a sudden, your Alexa, your Facebook, your everything starts to send you ads about Hawaii. It's the same idea, right? It's using you as a person who has this app downloaded to a spatially, like a tracking, like a Bluetooth tracker. When you walk past the Hawaii booth, I want you to be served a Hawaii ad. I want you to be given a text message from Visit Hawaii that says, don't forget to drop by our booth 1328. So lots of ways that AI can be used in that wayfinding and more on the trade show side. Now, post-event, sentiment analysis, I'll show you a slide on that next, but really looking at the faces. Right now, if all of you were on this call and I was using Read.ai and I could see all of your faces, Read.ai would be analyzing your faces. And at the end of this call, it would tell me the engagement score. How many people were engaged? At what point were they engaged? When did their engagement wane and when did it get better, right? So understanding how people interact at an event. So if you have a general session speaker, a keynoter that you spent $25,000 on, and you're reading the room using AI and the sentiment analysis, and it turns out that the sentiment was that he or she really wasn't that great, and you get the survey results, and the survey results kind of say the same thing, well, you kind of have a problem now. But at least you have more data, because we all know that surveys, very few people fill them out. Automated event reports. So again, the engagement, what was our ROI? So what were the goals and what are we trying to get out of this? And what is the actual return we're trying to get? Let AI analyze that by reviewing your actual finances. So how many people, what was your expected attendance? What was your final? What was your expected revenue? What was your final? What was the sentiment of the faces in the rooms? All of that can then be thrown together and you can have a really nice report to present to whomever that gives you not just objective or subjective, but also objective information. And then post-event follow-ups back to that CRM where, thank you, Tim, for joining our Prestige webinar. But now it also is mentioning in that feedback, in that final email, other things we have going on that I would be interested in based upon AI and how it's reading the relationship I have with your company. This next slide is an example from a company called Zenus. They create these cameras that are reading faces, so sentiment analysis. They can do this in a breakout room, a general session, at a trade show booth, at a check-in counter. This is just an example. What's the room energy? So if I have cameras facing the room and it's showing and it's looking at everybody's faces, it doesn't know who you are, but it estimates whether you're a male or a female. It estimates whether what age group you fall within. And then it shows you based upon the timestamp. So you see the chart there at the top when the energy was low or high. And so if you were recording your session, you could go back and say, at 11:30 and 30 seconds or whatever this dip was, maybe that's when I said something that nobody really wanted to know about. And then I cracked a joke and all of a sudden I had the room's attention back. So you can really get good data on this. And another example they have with a trade show is it can capture every face that walks past your booth, and that could count how many interactions your sales team had with potential customers. So it could say over the course of an 8-hour trade show day, 22,000 people walked by your booth, but only 250 stopped. And of those 250 that stopped, only 10 stayed for more than 5 minutes. Now you can make some adjustments, as well as when were the busy times, when were the slow times. Really powerful data that you can have as an exhibitor. This is an example. I just threw this in Copilot of a feedback from a recent event that we had. It said, can you analyze the feedback responses from our event and summarize them, as well as provide key takeaways and any room for improvement? And I threw the spreadsheet in there. It was called Answer Details 2, which is why it says that. And then it started to analyze it. And it said, yeah, here's a comprehensive summary. Here's some feedback on the speaker. Here are some of the main points that we could take away from that. Here's the takeaways that folks had. So it's paraphrasing and rephrasing what some of the people on that feedback form said, but not word for word. And there were many more sections of this feedback. This was just on the actual speaker. And then back to that Zenus example, here is a check-in kiosk where you had these cameras facing a check-in counter. And you can see that location 1 was an actual kiosk, so AI-based or computer-based, and location 2 was a counter with people. And it shows that despite people spending more time in front of this computerized kiosk to check in and get their badge, they actually had a better experience, 57 over 40, a better experience using the computer versus using people. That might just be a training issue or getting some nicer customer service reps at your check-in counter. So just another example of the way you can use it. Now, talking about how you can use AI and tools like Synthesia, which is a video tool to enhance your relationships with your customers. This next quick 30-second video, I'll show you and then I'll talk about it.
Hi there, I'm your Synthesia personal avatar. Did you know I speak many other languages? Por ejemplo, este soy yo hablando español. これは私が日本語で話しているところです。Je peux aussi parler français. Incroyable, n'est-ce pas? Ready to make your own video in any of 30+ languages? Click the new video button to get started.
So that's an example where I recorded myself doing a couple different phrases, just is, am, were, was, the different words, different phrases. And then the AI analyzed my voice and my video and all of my mannerisms. And now anytime I want to send a customized video to anyone, I can literally click a button and it will change the language for me and send it in French, Japanese, any language you can think. Amazing. All right, I got to keep moving because we're running short on time. Accessibility, so important. So we talked about language translation and closed captioning in real time, audio descriptions for those that are visually impaired. Here's an example of sign language. So you can have sign to text. So if you don't read sign language, it can actually read it for you and vice versa. So you can type text and have an AI avatar doing the sign language. So you may or may not have the budget for a full licensed ASL person, but it can do it in real time. Carbon footprint for sustainability. We talked about a little about this. HVAC systems. This is an example of a heat map where based upon the heat map of where people are, AI can certainly take those into considerations and change the HVAC systems, open doors, open concessions, close concessions. Very, very cool ways that it can use AI on an event. Here's kind of the takeaway, right? Here are my last couple of slides. Implementation without overwhelming. I went through a lot, and this is a much shorter version than my full AI presentation. So believe me, there's a lot more we could be talking about, but I don't want to overwhelm you because it's most important that you identify one repetitive task, one thing that takes time from your schedule and your life that you can automate, whether it's sending emails in the morning, whether it's putting together a PowerPoint deck. There are so many things that we all do redundantly every single day that AI can help with. Writing code in the Facebook example or the Meta example. If you're talking about using AI, I asked whether your organizations have a formal plan. Maybe your work laptop is locked down and you can't use AI, but trying it in a low risk setting. So non-customer facing, something internal. And then most importantly, train your team to use one tool at a time. This is how we as a company will use Microsoft Copilot. Here are all the ways you can use Copilot. Here are the ways you can't use Copilot. Go. Start with one in a low risk setting, train, and then see what people come up with. Why are people not doing this? What are some of the barriers? Well, I don't want to pay for it. Everything I've showed you here is free. Everything has free versions. Free versions will get you by with a lot. But if you really want curated content, if you want to make sure that it's 100% accurate or 98% accurate, the paid versions are certainly better, as well as whether you want to have the information you put out there to be publicly accessible, as Laura just mentioned, or if you want to make sure that everything that you say stays internal and can't be used by other people. So you're not putting financial information out on the interwebs. So very important. How user-friendly it is. ChatGPT is so simple. Write a question, it gives you an answer, and there's many more just like that. And then very important, as already mentioned, the privacy. Is it secure? Are we compliant? Is this going to pass muster with my IT people? Very, very important questions. As we wrap up, what's the future in AI and events? Because we mentioned some of the easy ones, the ChatGPTs, the Synthesias, stuff that you can use. But AI-powered holograms, you're going to start seeing that quite a bit. So walking up to a trade show booth where you're interacting with a full avatar, that you can speak any language that you want, and it's replying back in any language, and it's telling you about the product that that company sells, and it's very accurate, maybe better than some of the salespeople there. Hey, I don't speak Korean. Would you mind talking to my AI hologram? And the hologram starts to speak in Korean with that person. Predicting behavior and trend forecasting. What is it the event's going to look like? What are these folks going to be asking for? AI will start to predict those things for us. And then you will have your own fully automated event planning assistant, putting calendar invites together, firing off emails, putting together agendas without anything you actually have to tell it to do. You give it a goal and it does every step in between. Just like Mark Zuckerberg mentioned, coding, we have a goal, we need you to get there, but I'm not going to tell you every single step of the way. So I talked at the top about these apps. Again, these are some of the apps that I use. I'm happy to go into more details with y'all on a follow-up, but there are so many out there and so many that I have not mentioned, but I like to categorize them to help it make it a little bit easier to understand. And at the end of the day, why are we doing this? We want to use AI tools to save time and make your lives more efficient, especially if you're working with a smaller team. Everyone wants a personalized invitation, personalized messaging. So enhancing personalization is key. AI will allow you to be completely customizable per person. Data, throwing in feedback, throwing in your ROI metrics, having it spit out data very quickly, putting in a chart or graph to make it easier to understand. You could take a 50 tab, 200 megabyte Excel file and have it parse that down into 2 bar graphs and you're done. Very quick. And it's not a replacement, especially in our industry, because the human expertise side of it, the relationship building at the top I talked about, those are not going away, but it's certainly a tool that you're going to use every single day to enhance the way that you do your business. And that's a wrap. That's what I got. Sasha, back to you.
Well, I'm going to keep you around because that was a really interesting presentation. And I know there have been some questions that have been posed, and this is a great time for folks to also pose questions. I encourage you to use the Q&A function, but you can also put it in the chat. But one question that came up right away regarding the room energy reading, is that something that you need to disclose to attendees that they are being recorded? Are there privacy concerns?
So speaking specifically about Zenus, because it reads faces but can't actually identify you, it doesn't link out to a database that says that's Sasha's face, that is Sasha giving this feedback. You certainly could put an easel that says we're using facial analysis, not recognition, facial analysis technology at this event where faces are being looked at but not recorded. If you don't want to do that, don't walk into the room. But it's legally, it's not recording and it's not actually putting a name to a face. So you don't have to, but I'm not a lawyer.
Sure. But it's something that's probably nice to disclose, especially if there's cameras pointing at folks.
100%. And for those of us that are coming to IMEX in October, probably a couple dozen booths will be using the Zenus technology. And IMEX is actually a customer of Zenus, and they track how many people are walking throughout those hallways. So you may see a disclosure or a disclaimer as you even walk into on the IMEX trade show floor.
Got it. And by the way, Martha asked if there will be a copy of the presentation deck available. There absolutely will be. We'll tell you how to get your hands on that. And of course, you can always watch this back on the YouTube channel, Prestige Global's channel, in case you joined us late. Here's another question. I know you presented a ton of different apps or sort of AI tools. What is like the best tool for newbies just starting out?
Yeah, I mentioned ChatGPT because it's the most commercialized, the one that's been around the longest and what you hear about on the news. So ChatGPT is 100% free. You could sign up for an account very easily. You don't have to be a Microsoft customer, like using Copilot. So I would say that is the gateway drug, if you will. That is the easiest of the tools to start up with. And then from there, you can start to add some to your repertoire.
Sure, absolutely. And then for those folks who use work computers that are locked down, how do you recommend folks they get started using AI tools?
So important to understand what is locked down through a firewall and what you are unable to access because it's a work computer. Most of us who have a work computer also have a personal machine, but your laptops are basically computers. You can download ChatGPT for your phone. You can download Gemini for your phone. In fact, I have Gmail and uses Gemini every time I write an email from my phone. So there are numerous tools where you don't have to be on a physical desktop or laptop machine. But again, I don't want you breaking policy. I don't want you to use a VPN to go try to use a tool that you really want. Try it on your phone first before you end up getting in trouble with IT.
Right. And then Cami asked, you mentioned Zenus. Can you spell that for everyone?
Yep. It is Zenus, Zenus.ai. They're based out of Austin. Really nice people. I suggest you give them a ring. Tell them who sent you. No, I don't get anything for it, but they're really good people, and I'd love to send them some business.
Sure. And to sort of finish this off, I know that one of the comments that came through that AI can threaten actual people's jobs, and in this case, it would said that Laura McCann said AI threatens jobs traditionally held by women, and certainly it can even replace folks that are hired for everything from doing sign language to voiceover to on camera to copywriters, etc. Sort of like, do you have any thoughts about how to bridge the human aspect with the AI tool, whether even when something is created for you through an AI format, whether it's still worth checking through the work because obviously it's not perfect? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah. Well, I take the example of how most McDonald's are going to a kiosk to order your food now, and really you just have the people behind the counter handing it to you. Yes, AI will take some of the redundant, repetitive, lower level tasks away from seasoned planners, and that's okay. And I think it's going to up level the game of those people who would normally be doing that entry level thing are now going to be able to learn and get different additional skills to be able to do much more complex things, work-related items, because those lower level tasks are handled by AI. There's no doubt that AI is going to take the mundane and repetitive tasks away from people, but I hope that in your hiring and on your teams, you don't have people that's all they can do.
Sure. Well, as somebody who is in the business of speaking and recording, I will say that even the AI voiceover could use some improvement, at least at this point, of being sort of more human and expressive. And
yeah,
it's interesting to see how those worlds are going to merge together, especially as it becomes more advanced in the coming years.
And it's important kind of to wrap that up, taking this into the real world. You have all these actors out there that are refusing to sell their likeness, their voice to AI to be used, because you literally don't even have to have a person in a movie anymore. You can have an AI version of them. And I just recently read how you can take an entire feature film, a Hollywood feature film that's 2 hours long, that let's say it's a horror film, and using AI, you can have it rewrite and re-narrate with live video and make it a comedy. And you literally push a button, and now Robert De Niro is no longer the scary guy. He's now the head comedian. And those are the types of things that AI are going to get into if we let it. So there have to be some safeguards, not just in the real world, but also in our meetings and events industry as well.
Absolutely. And it's interesting to see how it is a springboard for our own work, regardless of industry, where it's a starting point. It's a draft that you can then embellish using actual human skills.
Yeah. So don't be afraid, just embrace it, but make sure that you're using it for the right reasons.
Exactly. Well, if folks who are still with us are interested in learning more from Tim Altbaum, or if you want to get your hands on the PowerPoint or PDF version of this deck, contact your Prestige account manager, and we will be happy to forward on this information, which I think will be useful. And of course, this webinar will live on the Prestige Global YouTube channel in just a matter of days. Tim, this was so informative. So many folks are writing in how useful this was. So I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with us.
Well, it was an honor to be here, and I'm always happy to be sharing information that I think very soon will become public knowledge.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, have a great day, Tim. Thanks for being here. And I want to thank everybody else who has been with us to join us for this webinar. Our full lineup is available right here. You can just scan the QR code. I'll make it full screen shortly. We have a roster of guest speakers that we are working on for the coming months, and we're going to be sending out the dates for our upcoming webinars this summer, probably in the next few weeks. But if you have an idea for a subject you would love to see covered, or if you think you'd actually be an excellent speaker for us, please reach out to your account manager, because we're always looking for ways to improve and make this interesting for everybody. So until the next webinar, which we'll be announcing soon, have a great day, everybody. Thank you for joining us, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.